For the 337th time, I will welcome you to the War Room. What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday, and welcome to episode 337 of Cocktails in the War Room. I am your host, Mistress Carrie. As always, my co-hosts are here on the couch here in the War Room. Wednesday and Friday have joined us, and the wrestling match and the knocking of the pillows has already begun. Got to say what's up to everybody chiming in on Instagram, on Twitch, on Facebook, and YouTube. We do this every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern time. We get together. Basically, it's like an Ask Me Anything. People ask me all the time, like, well, what is Cocktails in the War Room? And I said, well, it was how we all stayed sane during the pandemic. And now it's become a place where on Tuesday nights at 8:30, we get together to talk about what's going on in the world, what's going on in music. I turn the camera on so that you guys can watch the dogs. Hey, stop it, you two. And we basically just have become an online support group. We've been doing it since March 14th of 2020, 80 nights in a row through the height of COVID. And then when we launched the Mistress Carrie podcast 5.5 years ago now, we turned Cocktails in the War Room into a weekly show that we do on Tuesday nights here in the room of my house that is called the War Room. It has been for 15 years, and it's where the bar is. It's also where all of the military memorabilia and the stuff that my family has collected over the years, things I brought back from my trips overseas, and I set up the pug cam so that you guys can watch the dogs wrestle because, well, you would rather look at that than me anytime. Friday. Yeah, exactly. Do you see how quickly she sat to attention just then? It's the only time I can get her to behave. You're not being a nice girl. Can you just sit and behave and be nice? I know that you're wagging your tail right now because you think that I have something for you in my hands. I'm just trying to get you to behave. Can you just do that for me? Can you do that too Wednesday? Because that would be great if you could do that. So I got to say what's up to Donna and Alexis and Dina and Dawn and Jessica and Bish and Louise and Mr. Cole. Betty is joining us. Dean. Let's see who else. If you're on Instagram, one of the things that sucks is that I can only see your handle. I can't see your name. So if you're going to comment on Instagram, let me know what your name is. But otherwise, yeah, that's where you can find the pugs on Instagram at Wednesday the Goth Pug. And then you from time to time will get pug cuteness. Right now, this is what they do when they've been napping all day and now they're like all wound up and they want to fight. And this is what they do. So in like 15 minutes, they'll be unconscious and snoring, and it is how it is. I do want to point out something that is going to become not so obvious, but you are going to notice it. I told the Backstage Pass holders this on Sunday night, and if you don't know what the Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass is, I'll tell you in a bit. You might not notice it, but if you listen, yes, you're going to hear the pugs wrestling. You're not hearing the ticking of the clocks. You notice it? How quiet? Listen. So for anybody that doesn't know, here in the War Room, there have always been 4 clocks up on the wall. Like the time zone clocks in the old like 60s and 50s, like NASA movies and stuff like that. We call it the War Room. So there had to be clocks from around the world on the wall. And so there was always a clock on Boston time. Obviously, that's the home time zone. And then there's a clock that always is for Baghdad time and a clock that is always Kabul time, because those were the places that I went overseas embedded with U.S. troops as an embedded reporter. The 4th clock is always on my husband time. And so wherever he was in the world during one of his deployments, I would always keep a clock on his time zone time so that there was always a way for me to kind of keep track. Those clocks have been up on the wall for 15 years. And they were all identical. I bought them all at the same time. I changed the batteries at the same time, did everything the same. And one of the clocks died. And when I tried to find a replacement that looked exactly like the other clocks, I couldn't find one. So I had to get 4 new identical clocks. And unlike the clocks that used to be here in the War Room, these have a smooth and silent second hand. So you will no longer, 337 episodes in of Cocktails in the War Room, you will no longer hear the ticking of the second hands of 4 clocks simultaneously ticking here in the War Room, because as of this weekend, there's no more ticking. So there you go. Did I hear dog fart? Tim wants to know on YouTube. Those aren't dog farts. Those are dog snorts, because as you can see over my shoulder, and if I turn the pug cam back on, they are wrestling right now. Hey, can you guys go over there? Come over here. Come over here. So at least everybody can see you and see what I'm up against right now. This is Friday. She is the baby. She is not quite 2 yet, so she is still filled with too much energy, right? And then Wednesday is going to be 8 years old in April, which is kind of insane to even think about. So are you taking up residency on my lap now? Is that what we're doing? Do you want to sit? Do you want to sit? Want to say hi to everyone? Those aren't pug farts. Those are pug snorts. Pugs make a lot of noise. And for anybody that's ever had pugs or been around pugs, after a while, it's kind of like the ocean, that relaxation, like those white noise machines people use. If you sit around the pugs long enough, their snoring will make you want to nap. So the sounds of silence, says Stephen. Let's see. Eric says, did you see Ivan Moody is reuniting with Motor Grader? Yes, that's one of the things we want to talk about. I never heard the clock, says Brett. You never heard the ticking, like the tick, tick. Really? Yeah. It's the sound of silence. David Draymond voice, says Bish. Yeah, exactly. Pugs snorting are so adorable. Thank you. I stopped hearing the ticking once you upgraded the microphone. Interesting. I mean, that's the thing about buying really good microphones, is that they do really make a difference. And if you feel like it, you can go back and listen to the episode that I did last year with Brent Smith from Shinedown when they were doing tour rehearsals for the Dance Kid Dance Tour. I brought these microphones to do that interview, and it sounded like, even though we were like in an arena, in a dressing room, and everything was concrete and echoey, it sounded really good. Then if you go and listen to the interview that I did with Matt Walst and Adam Gontier from 3 Days Grace, I used different microphones because I took a smaller case with smaller gear, and you can tell how echoey it is. And it was all the microphones. So it doesn't surprise me that some of you guys didn't hear the ticking clocks here in the War Room once I adjusted the microphones. But yeah, still. Brett says, my Yorkie is snoring right now. Rachel says, my friends have a fawn pug like Friday. They named her Strawberry Shortcake and call her Cakes for short. Oh my God, I love that. Denise said, when you mentioned it's Sunday, I was confused because I never heard it. I can't believe that so many of you didn't hear the ticking. Now, I didn't notice it because, like I said, they've been ticking for 15 years. And so in the house, I didn't even notice it, but I would pick it up in my headphones while I was doing the show because I could hear it. Obviously, the noise canceling kept the ticking from getting through to a lot of people on the show, but Louise says, sounds great. Lou says, I didn't hear them either. Too many concerts with no earplugs, I guess. What's up, Mr. Voorhees? Keith says, what's up, fuckers? Yeah, Friday. Hey, will you stop nipping at your sister's leg? Can you just behave? Can you be cute and just, can I have your paw? Friday, can I have your paw? Thank you both. Thank you for the paws. I didn't bring any COOKIES in here though. So Louise says, ticking time, Bob. I heard it once in a while when you were on your phone, says Donna. Well, we haven't been on the phone here in the War Room in quite some time. But anyway, massive upgrade here in the War Room. 4 new clocks, 4 silent second hands. And so even if you couldn't hear it on the show, it's weird that you don't hear it in the house anymore, because it was one of those noises that I just tuned out after a while, and now it's silent and it's really weird. So a lot has happened over the last week. I told you guys over the last couple of weeks that once we got through the new year, we were going to start getting massive tour announcements, album release announcements, and just overall music news. The music industry goes like dormant for like 2 to 3 weeks at the end of December and beginning of January, depending on how the holidays fall near weekends and stuff. And we are now that we went through our first full week of work into the new year, bands are starting to set release dates and announce new albums. And so we're going to go through a lot of that stuff tonight, because there is a ton of stuff that's getting announced every day. So if you're joining me here in the War Room on Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, maybe you haven't seen me in a while. Every once in a while, I pop on people's algorithms unexpectedly, and you're like, where the hell has she been? A bunch of places, including 10 to 3 every weekday on Charleston's Best Rock, 98 Rock. You could download the free 98 Rock app and stream the station live from anywhere, or just go to my98rock.com. Make sure you listen in the noon hour every weekday for the 98 Rock Lunchbox. We switch up the music during your lunch hour every day, and it's a different theme, a different era, a different year of music that we take a deep dive into. So that's middays every weekday in Charleston, South Carolina. You can hear me every weekday afternoon on 100 FM The Pike in Worcester, Mass. You can go to pikefm.com or download the free Pike app, and you can stream the station from anywhere. That's 3 to 7. And then you can also hear me in Portland, Maine on 106.3 The Bone. You can listen every weekday from 3 to 7. You can go to 1063thebone.com or download the free Bone app if you want to stream the station from anywhere. And we're coming up on my 1-year anniversary in Springfield, Mass, on everything that rocks Laser 99.3 and 98.5. I'm happy to tell you guys that I just signed my extension, that when I started in Springfield, they were like, let's give it a year and see how it goes. And we'll see how everything happens. And before the new year, they came back to me and said, we want to have you back. Do you want to come back? I said, yes. And so we just kind of signed, sealed, and delivered everything. So not only will I be celebrating my 1-year anniversary next month in Springfield on Laser, but also pretty excited to be able to start making long-term plans on the station as well. So I got to thank everybody that's been listening, whether it's at laser993.com or on the free Laser app. Thank you for giving me a home every weekday morning from 6 to 10, because they asked me back, and I'm super excited. So my 1-year anniversary is literally a month away. Let's see. Anderson says, what's up on Facebook? Also, Jamie says, what's up from Hampton, Virginia? What's going on, Jamie? Rachel says, woot, woot, download the Bone. Says Keith, please come to Western Mass for meet and greet, says Louise. We're actually talking about putting some events together out in Springfield to give me a chance to kind of hang out with everybody and to do some stuff. So yes, that is definitely in the conversation. We're talking about doing some different events and trying to put something together. So Lou says, fantastic, awesome. Was there any doubt that you weren't going to do well? It's anytime you start a new endeavor, you're always worried. I was worried when we started hanging out in the War Room. I was worried when I built MistressCarrie.com. I was worried when I spent the money on the initial run of t-shirts that we sell in the online store. I was worried when I launched the podcast. I was worried when I got back on the radio. I don't take anything for granted, and the last thing I would ever take for granted is you guys. So when starting on a new station where I've never been on the air before, when starting a new project, starting something new like a new podcast, of course I'm going to be nervous. I'm optimistic and I am secure and like confident in my own ability, but that doesn't mean it's going to work. And so for you guys, to be so supportive, and for the stations that I'm on to be grateful that I'm still there and that we're doing really well and Ask Me Back is pretty awesome. So really excited. Daniel says, good evening from Gilbert, Arizona. The American Legion Post 39 and Vernon Hill American Legion Post 435 says, thank you for all you do. What's going on out in Gilbert, Arizona? Steven says, just moving back home from Hampton, Virginia. That is fantastic. Sherry says, hello, everybody. Keith says, just cannot get rid of this cough. Yeah, the flu season this year has been brutal. So do everything you can to try and stay healthy, because flu season has been really, really terrible so far, and we're still kind of in the thick of it right now. So one of the ways that you can kill the flu, I'm not a scientist, but is with booze. And one of the things we do here in the War Room is go through the ever-growing library book collection that I have for cocktails. And Melissa hooked me up with some cocktail recipe books that she got at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. And so I wanted tonight to bring the Brass Monkey. So the way that these books work, the ones that she got at the Rock Hall, is that they're all music themed. And so there's a side A. So let me hold up. So this is the Beastie Boys section. And then there is a A side and a B side. So the Brass Monkey, which is side A, says, break out the drinking games. In the song Brass Monkey, the Beastie Boys reference the pre-made drink marketed and sold by Hugh Blean from the 70s to the 90s, but you can make your own with malt liquor and orange juice. To follow the spirit of the recipe, grab a 40-ounce bottle of Old English, drink it to the top of the label, add orange juice, and that is the Brass Monkey. So if you really want to do it Beastie Boys style, a 40 of Old English, drink it to the label, add orange juice to fill it back up. It does not say to garnish it with anything, because I don't believe we're putting this in some kind of a fancy glass. You're drinking this wrapped in a paper bag straight out of the bottle. That's how you make a Brass Monkey. Hilarious. These books just keep getting better and better. Okay, I want to give you guys a chance. I do not know if there are any tickets left available. They warned me last week that these tickets were almost gone. But coming up on January 30th, it is Booze, Brews, and Barbecue. And you guys are going to be hearing a lot about this event this week. It's happening at the East Regiment Beer Company in Salem, Massachusetts. It's happening on the 30th with the guys from Booze, Brews, and Barbecue. And they have asked me to come and kind of MC and host the Q&A section. And so this is going to be a little bit of everything. And rather than me try to tell you exactly what this event is going to be, you're going to find out on this week's podcast episode. So that is a little bit of a hint. Before I tell you who's on the podcast this week, let's recap last week, episode 292, featuring the Nelson brothers. Well, specifically Matthew Nelson, but telling the story of the Nelson brothers book, What Happened to Your Hair? And you may remember the Nelsons from the 80s, the Nelson twins, their dad, Ricky Nelson, their grandparents, Ozzie and Harriet. And they wrote this book about being third generation musicians, growing up in Hollywood, their dad's tragic plane crash death, their parents' tumultuous divorce, finding success in the 80s as musicians in their own right, riding the wave of the grunge era in the 90s. Just the stories, the people they know, their upbringing. There was a lot of stuff that I did not know about the Nelson brothers, and this book tells a lot of it. But talking to Matthew, and if you listen to the episode that came out last Wednesday, there was a lot of stuff just in that conversation. And for me, it's one of the most powerful moments on the podcast all these episodes later, and this is 292, was he and I tearing up talking about the passing of our parents. Him telling the story about how he found out his dad died. how his brother found out his dad died, which are two separate chapters in the book that's available everywhere, and talking about what it's like as an adult child to lose your parents. Because just in the last few years, I've lost both of mine, and it's something that we continue to talk about here in the War Room, because we're at that age where the natural progression of life is we're going to start losing our parents. It's the way it's supposed to be. They're not supposed to lose us, obviously, but it doesn't make it any less emotional or tragic for us. And figuring out, navigating that process of taking care of them when they fall ill, of getting their affairs in order if you are fortunate enough to have the time to do it, and how that affects the greater family, how that affects your siblings, how that affects the rest of the relatives in your family, whether those things were planned for or not, and what it's like to be an adult at any age when you wake up and you find out that the generations that came before you are all gone and you are now the patriarch or matriarch of your family. It's a really weird thing I don't care how old you are, to kind of navigate all of that. And Matthew and I talked a lot about how important it is to have a sibling to be able to go through that with you. I don't know who said that. I would love to be able to attribute the quote to them, but the quote basically was, your siblings are the last witnesses of your life, that your friends only know you from a section of your life, your spouse only knows you from a section of your life, but your siblings were there for your whole life, and they're the only other witness to your upbringing, how you grew up. Brett says, loved your discussion with Matthew about dealing with losing parents. Yeah, it's come up more and more all the time. And it's going to continue to come up as artists lose their parents and as they're willing to talk about it, because it was a really profound part of my life. And it's crazy that you guys were there through the whole thing, right? That I found out my mom got her diagnosis of dementia and Alzheimer's while we were doing the War Room. I was taking care of her while we were doing the War Room. You guys were there when I had to accept the fact that I could no longer take care of her. You guys were here when we lost her and have been there through the whole thing. I would like to think that I've given you guys shrewd life advice. If you have not yet reached that point in your adult lives where you're processing the level of grief losing a parent, but it doesn't matter if you come from a 3-generation famous Hollywood family or not. It's definitely something, as I talked to Wolfgang Van Halen about on the podcast, that binds us all, right? My dad was not Eddie Van Halen, but the idea of losing your dad is something that is a common thread in our existence. And so it was a really profound and emotional part of the podcast when he started crying about remembering how he found out about his dad dying. And then I got emotional when we started talking about the power of music and how it helps dementia and Alzheimer's patients. And talking about the process of my mom losing her memory and what that was like to be her child and to go through the active process of my mother forgetting me, which I would not wish on anyone. Lou says, ironically, I really enjoyed their father's music a lot. He played in a John Wayne movie, Rio Bravo. Look, Ricky Nelson, if you think people like Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift are famous now and were famous as teenagers, Ricky Nelson was that and then some. He was the teen heartthrob, and everybody knew him partially because Ozzy and Harriet were incredibly famous in their own right, and Ricky Nelson was their son. And so when the Nelson twins came on the scene, they were raised with all of that kind of being normal. But as Matthew started talking about in the podcast, the tumultuous divorce of his parents and how that all got dragged out in public and what that did to the Nelson brothers in private, I thought was really, really interesting. Brett says, I really hope he starts a foundation based on your mom. Yeah, towards the end of the podcast, we started talking about doing some kind of a project that that helped people that were trying to help loved ones with dementia and Alzheimer's and the importance of music in that process. And I told him, if it's something that you want to get involved with, I will help you. And whether or not that happens, I'm not sure. It could have been because we were both so emotional by the end of the interview or not. I don't know. But Hillary says, my mom used to say that too. Adulting is bullshit. I want to call a redo, says Eric. When you figure out how to do that, let us know. Look, if I can figure it out, I will let you guys know, because it really is something that was incredibly helpful when my mom was still alive, but it's also something that makes me cry all the time. This week's episode is another episode where we talked about the Beatles. And, I've said it so many times on the podcast, we even put a Beatles lyric on my mom's headstone because that's how much that music meant to her. And that music became the cornerstone of surviving as her child through her illness. And so now when I hear that music, it brings me back. Now, I bring it up because of the conversation that I had on this week's episode. Barry Kirch from Shinedown returns to the show this week, partly because of the show Booze, Brews, and Barbecue that is going to be in Salem at the end of the month, because he is one of the 3 guys that's on the show, but also because I tried my best to find out what's going on with the new Shinedown album and the tour. But one part of the conversation that we ended up getting into is the music that's left behind that reminds you of people that are gone. So we started talking about how the music reminds me of my mom, but then Barry started talking about the music that's left behind by his fellow musicians that are no longer with us. And so we had a really serious conversation this week on this week's episode, but for different reason. It wasn't talking about family loss. For Barry, it was talking about friendship loss. Chris Cornell, the Abbott brothers, talking about the loss of the musicians that made the music, because he spent time with those guys on the road in the studio and what that was like for him. Are you coming up? Come on. Come on, Wednesday. Good girl, Friday. You sit right over here. If Wednesday wants to come up, she can be up. Dawn says Bruins are up 1-0. Thank you for the update. So Barry has been on the show. This is going to be his 4th time. He came on once for a full-length episode. Then he did a couple of bonus episodes, and now he's back for another full-length episode. And episode 293 comes out tomorrow. And there's a lot going on with the Shinedown guys. Barry's also got a lot going on between hot sauces and coffee and the Booze, Brews, and Barbecue project that he's working on. And then obviously finishing up the recording of the new Shinedown album. After we finished recording, I will tell you this, and I'm sworn to secrecy, so I can't say anything I promised. But I tentatively know the album title, and I tentatively have seen the album artwork. Is it 100% finalized? No. Barry told me it could change, but he doesn't think it will. But it's very cool. So that's all I can say. Louise says, my mom was my best friend. I miss her every day. I totally get it. Let's see. I'll need a mental institution when my mom passes, says Bish. Which lyric is on her headstone? It's a lyric from P.S. I Love You that we put on my mom's headstone. My sister and I spent some time separately going through Beatles lyrics, and then we both sat down at the table. My sister and I a long time ago, and I really hope that one of the things that, one of the pieces of advice that I give you guys if you're navigating ailing parents is make agreements with your siblings while your parents are still here. My sister and I made an agreement very early on when my parents were splitting up and things were getting weird in the divorce. And then once we found out my mom's diagnosis when she got sick, that kind of galvanized the resolve of the agreement we had, which was that our parents would never pit us against each other and that we would never make decisions for our parents unless we both agreed. And so we had a 50-50 vote on things when it came to my mom, when it came to her funeral, when it came to, the medical decisions, and when it came to the design of her headstone, that we agreed that if one of us liked something and the other one didn't, that it wouldn't get done, that no one had the upper hand. And so what we did was we sat down and both came up with a list of song lyrics that we both loved, that were our suggestions. And then we sat down to see which ones overlapped and which ones we both thought were really powerful. And we both really agreed on lyrics from P.S. I Love You. And so that's why that's on my mom's headstone. Lou says, it's just life. You have to go through it yourself. You find the strength and you figure it out. Absolutely. So yeah, Jessica, artists like Chester Bennington and Taylor Hawkins. Jason says, is Shinedown's new album a little more heavy? What it's been described as very eclectic. I think if you listen to the song Searchlight and it's got the banjo in it, it definitely shows that the band is willing to kind of stretch things a little bit. Then there was Dance Kid Dance that was heavy, but then there was 365 that Billboard magazine called one of the top 10 best songs of 2025. And if you go and see them, and that's something that Barry and I talked about in this week's episode, they do this whole part of the show based around 365, which was partially inspired by Eric Bass losing his dad. And the 365 days, like after you lose someone and you start getting to those year milestones and anniversaries of their passing. And it's a really touching part of Shinedown's live performance now. And so just in the 3 songs we've already heard from the Shinedown record, it's diverse. And they're definitely willing to try new things for sure. Trisha says, what I try to do, the small things in life, like using my mom's pots and pans and even some of her utensils, plus make some of the same meals that we used to. My mom knew she was loved, and I was making cookies one year, and my mom said that she didn't think that the little stuff like that meant anything to us. So I told her that it meant the world to me, and it made me feel so good. Oh, you're making me cry, Trisha. It is those little things. And my sister and I try really hard to keep up those traditions, those little things through the holidays and stuff. And, people are like, wow, you guys have a lot of traditions. My husband says that too, because he doesn't have a lot of traditions. Oh my God, I'm sorry, guys. That one hit me in the feels just then. But we have really tried to keep a lot of that stuff alive. And it is all of those little things. Keeping the little things around the house, which I do a lot of. And, hold on, I need a minute. Fuck. Thanks a lot, Trisha. You got me. I know you weren't trying to, but damn. Woo. That's the thing about grief. It sneaks up on you. Like, you're totally fine. And then something happens and it just levels you. And it is brutal. Sorry, the tears are making it so I can't read your comments. Bish said that Brent said the new tour is going to go into November of next year. Yeah, they're planning on touring pretty heavily on this new record for sure. Eric says, Walter, get the tissues. Trisha said, but I didn't like my birthday anymore because my dad died before my 16th birthday and my mom dies 10 years before my 45th. Yeah, it's weird, like losing my uncle around Thanksgiving, losing my mom right before Christmas. Bish says, damn it, who cut the onions? Yeah, it's dusty as fucking here right now. Yeah, this is why, I told you guys 293 episodes ago when I launched the podcast. And by the way, it's been like 335 if you count all the bonus episodes, that I wanted you guys to get to know the artists the way that I know them. And talking to artists about just their music and all that stuff is great. And I find it super interesting. It's why I talk to them about the recording process, the songwriting process. But getting into the life that inspires the songs is also something that I think is really important. And at the end of the day, that humanity that we seem to be losing more and more of in this country every day, trying to tap into that humanity is something that is making getting out of bed every day a little bit easier for me. And so having these really serious conversations with these artists and talking about their loss and their grief, and you know, you might be the biggest Shinedown fan in the world. They might be your favorite band, and you look at these guys as the biggest rock stars. But when you hear them talk about personal things like overcoming loss and grief, for me, that's really helpful for me. So that's why I want to be able to continue to have these conversations, not only here in the War Room, but also on the podcast as well. Katie on Instagram says, off subject to make you laugh. Remember the food drive at the Westgate pub when we got you to play Lionel Richie? Oh my God, yes. Matter of fact, there should be pictures up on one of my photo galleries on Facebook. It might be the charity picture, but yes, you guys made me play Lionel Richie because Lionel Richie was, sorry, I got lipstick on my cheek. Lionel Richie was my first concert. And so we were talking about that during the Walk and Rock for Change. And I think you guys helped raise like $1,000 or $5,000 or something to get me to play Lionel Richie. So yes, I do remember that, Katie, and that was hilarious. I miss those days for sure. So there you go. That's this week's episode 293, featuring Barry Kirch from Shinedown. It goes live at midnight tonight. And when you subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast, you get the weekly episodes on Wednesdays plus Mondays through Fridays. Every week you get the sit rep, which tells you everything you need to know about music, entertainment, whether it's movies, album releases, tours getting announced, entertainment updates. Just, you can listen to it. It's like 5 minutes long. Get ready for your day. You don't have to do all the Googling. You can leave all of that to me and I'll just fill you in on everything that you need to know. You can listen to it while you're making your coffee, you're dropping the kids off at school, sitting in the drive-through, while you're in the shower. I don't mind if you listen while you're naked. I'm totally fine with that. There's also miniature sit reps that are 1 minute long that you can hear on Laser all throughout the day, and also on 106.3 The Bone in Portland as well. Eric says, my grampy died on June 2nd of 2020. My uncle died June 3rd. My biological dad on June 4th. I don't want to be June 5th. Yeah, that's weird. And it does seem to be, come on, Wednesday, come on. It does seem to be one of those things, like growing up in an Italian family, it was always like things happened in threes. And, so yeah, like things happening at the same time every year, things happening in threes close together. Katie says, hang in there, girl, and thank you. Yeah, that's how it is. Like now I'm okay. Just for some reason, just the little thing talking about my mom or whatever, like sometimes it just gets you. Louise says, it's getting harder and harder to watch what's going on in the country and the world. I would love a news channel that only reports positive stories. Actually, you'd be surprised, Louise, you got to hunt him down, but there are people on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube that's all they do is provide positive content because Wednesday, over here. Because they realize how much negative stuff people are being barraged with every day. And come over here and I'll pick you up. Come here. Come over here. Come on. And there are a lot of really successful content creators that are doing that, like counter programming, it's called, they know that there's so many people talking about negative stuff that they're purposefully just talking about positive stuff. It's part of the reason that I don't like getting into a lot of political stuff here on the show, or especially on the podcast or on the radio shows, because I understand that people are getting barraged by it everywhere, and they're looking for a place where they can go to find some like memory of like humanity, that they're looking for something to make them happy, to make them smile, to make them feel like they're part of a community as opposed to being outcasted out of a community. So yeah, like there are places out there that you can track down positive stuff, but it's not as easy to find as the negative stuff. That's Kevin says, looks like I'm getting snow later on tonight and early morning in Kentucky. Stay safe out there, Kevin. Come here, Wednesday. Come over here. Hold on 1 second, guys. I have a very upset pug that can't get on the couch. Come here. Come over here. Come here. Wednesday. Oh, now she's running away. Oh, my God. A song, a smell, a feeling can hit so hard. Grateful for memories, says Katie. John says, we could certainly use more positive content. Sherry says, today's my birthday. Well, that's positive content. We'll get to the birthdays in a minute. Wednesday, you wouldn't let me pick you up. So stop scratching at the couch because you can't get up. Friday, come over here. Come on, Wednesday. So happy birthday, Sherry. We'll do the rest of the birthdays coming up in a minute. William says, what's up, War Room family? Checking in from New Mexico. What's going on, William? Yes, Mr. Cole, they get snow in Kentucky. What's up, Travis? All right, so you get the Sit Rep Monday through basically all of the big major podcast apps on YouTube. It's part of the Pantheon Podcast Network. You can check out all the episodes at mistresscarrie.com. And the Mistress Carrie podcast is also embedded on all of the radio station websites that I'm on. So you can always go to Laser's website or the Bones website, the Pikes website, 98 Rocks website. If you go to the Mistress Carrie page on any of those websites, the podcasts are all up there as well. So just find the episode you want to listen to at mistresscarrie.com and click play. It's super easy, or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Still holding strong at 149 countries that are listening to the Mistress Carrie podcast. We'll get to 150 someday. It's going to happen. Come on, Wednesday. There you go. All right, Friday. Come over here. Come here, Wednesday. Come on. Come here. Come on. You've been sitting there whining on the floor for the last 5 minutes. Come and sit on my lap for a minute. There you go. There you go. Good. All right. Sherry, you started it, so happy birthday to Sherry. If you're celebrating your birthday today, you're sharing it with Tim Kelly from Slaughter, Wayne Coyne from The Flaming Lips, James Lamenzo from Megadeth and White Lion, Don Snow from Squeeze. Happy unbirthday, Keith. Happy birthday, Sherry. Let's see. Kevin says, we don't get too much snow, but it can be brutally cold here, I'm sure. Let's see. Lou says, see, I couldn't hear that either. Wait, I don't know what you guys were talking about. All right, so those are the birthdays. Let me hit you with some of the headlines and music so that we could talk about what's been making the news over the last week. If you guys did not go over the weekend to see Labyrinth with David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly, Jim Henson's Labyrinth, it came out 40 years ago. So over the weekend, they put it back in theaters. If you didn't go and see it in theaters, today they announced Labyrinth in concert. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I cannot encourage you enough to do it. I went and saw Star Wars at Symphony Hall with the Boston Symphony Orchestra doing the live score, like a full orchestra performing the score to Star Wars while you're in the audience watching the movie on the big screen. It's so freaking cool. Well, that's kind of what they're doing with Labyrinth. They are going to be in these big old historic theaters showing the movie with a live band doing the music, and it's coming to the Wilbur in September. They just announced the Labyrinth tour. Friday, you're going to fall. And the tickets go on sale this week. I put it up on the concert calendar at mistresscarrie.com if you want to check it out. But you guys know how much I love Jim Henson and the Muppets. And so the idea that you could see the Goblin King, otherwise known as David Bowie, on a big giant movie screen at the Wilbur with a live band doing the score is pretty badass. So they announced that today. Extreme is in the studio right now working on the band's 7th studio album. Sammy Hagar just announced he's doing a handful of tour dates. Even though he's doing the residency in Vegas, he's going out on the road with the Best of All Worlds band and Rick Springfield. And luckily for us, one of the shows that he's only doing like 8 shows outside of Vegas, is going to be at the Xfinity Center in June. They just announced the tickets go on sale on Friday. Why are you trying to pull my headphones off? Black Label Society, who's going to be at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway on April 4th. Zakk Wylde just announced the new Black Label album is called Engines of Demolition, and it's coming out the week before they're in Boston on March 27th. And we were talking about it earlier a little bit. Five Finger Death Punch just announced, speaking of anniversaries, they are going to be celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, going out on the road. And that includes 3 stops in New England. They're going to be at the Xfinity Center in Mansfield, Mass. They're going to be at the Bank of New Hampshire Pavilion in Guilford, New Hampshire. And they're also going to be up in at the Maine Savings Amphitheater in Bangor, Maine. The Five Finger Death Punch tickets go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. And Ivan Moody, the rumor is from other members of Motorgrader, in case you weren't aware, the band Motorgrader that was on the Ozfest all those years ago, named after an instrument that they invented called the Motorgrader, that they're reuniting with Ivan Moody, which is really interesting. So, they have not made any official announcements yet, but band members are starting to talk about it on social media, which is kind of huge. So Rachel says, oh my God, Christian has never seen Labyrinth before, and I found out that they were releasing it in theaters and one of our birthdays last year, and so we did that for my birthday. Oh, that's awesome, Rachel. Isn't Zakk's new album inspired by Ozzy? Yes, there's a whole tribute to Ozzy on the new album for sure. Donna says, I'm still pretty traumatized by David Bowie's Goblin King costume. I just love the fact that this movie is getting its due and they're making such a big deal out of sending it back out on the road. I think that's really, really cool. So I put the link to get tickets for the Wilbur show, but they're doing a whole national tour. It's even going to be down in Charleston, South Carolina. So no matter where you're watching the War Room from, this tour is going to be in a theater near you, like a big old theater like the Wilbur Theater in Boston. So you'll be able to go. It's going to be in Charleston, I think, at the Charleston Music Hall. So they're doing like these big music halls with a live band, which is amazing. So as soon as I get some more details on the reunion of Motorgrader, I will let you know. I'm trying to get some of the guys from Five Finger Death Punch on the podcast to talk about the upcoming tour. Speaking of touring, all kinds of dates. Going through some of the venues in and around Boston and in and around New England. Obviously, all of the tours that we talk about, they're nationwide. So if they're not in your town, they're going to be, or if you're not anywhere near Boston or New England, they're coming to a town near you for sure. 9 Inch Nails is going to be there a month from tonight at the Garden. Bad Omens, Weird Al, Iron Maiden in September with Megadeth, and Rush as well. The DCU Center in Worcester has got Bring Me the Horizon in May, Journey in June, and Silver Scream Con 5, which is Ice Nine Kills and the horror and gore and metal convention. It's getting moved to the first weekend in October. It has been in September the last 4 years, but now it is going into October, and it's going to be October 2nd through the 4th. All this stuff is up on the concert calendar, by the way, as well. Our Lady Peace and the Verve Pipe at Big Night Live in Boston on March 25th. The Xfinity Center, not only did the Sammy Hagar show get announced on June 24th, but also Five Finger Death Punch on July 30th. But all of these shows getting announced for the Xfinity Center and then some. Everybody from Hardy and Evanescence to Train and Chicago and Styx, Motley Crue, Tesla and Extreme, Avenged Sevenfold, and Good Charlotte, Lynyrd Skynyrd, and Foreigner. By the way, on the podcast this week with Barry Kirch from Shinedown, we spent a lot of time talking about Lynyrd Skynyrd and obviously Simple Man, because they are doing a show together later this year. Some other shows include Ghost is going to be at Mohegan at the end of the month. Kenny Wayne Shepherd at the Chevalier Theater. Hey, stop digging into the couch. Stop it. 3 Days Grace at the Mohegan Sun. Cheap Trick at Foxwoods. Friday. Stop. You're being very fresh. Don't dig into the couch. If you put a hole in Mommy's couch, I'm going to be very mad at you. Cheap Trick, Pussifer, Lamb of God, the Labyrinth at the Wilbur that I was just telling you guys about. The date, September 17th. Also Rush at Mohegan. So there's tons of shows that are going to be coming through. I updated the concert calendar today with a bunch of stuff. Satch Vi, Triumph, Youngblood, Yellow Card, Toto, and Christopher Cross and OAR are all going to be at the Leader Bank Pavilion in Boston this summer. Hey, stop. Sit down. Sit. Good girl. The tickets for all of these shows are already on sale, by the way. Nothing announced for Fenway yet, which we're waiting on. Usually they make those announcements as soon as like spring training starts and they start solidifying all of the schedules. So as soon as we get the Fenway concert announcements, we'll let you know. The Palladium coming up in March has got Lacuna Coil, then Des Rocks in April, Clutch and Corrosion of Conformity in April, Slaughter to Prevail in April, and Magnolia Park in April as well. And at Roadrunner in Boston, Echo and the Bunnymen in June. The MGM Music Hall at Fenway. Hey, am I going to have to start hitting you with a pillow? Stop being fresh. Sabaton with Pop Evil. The Sabaton guys are going to be on the podcast sooner than later. Dropkick Murphys, Black Label Society. Bush got announced. That just went on sale. That's got Mammoth and James and the Cold Gun are opening up for Bush at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway. Lamb of God, Bill Murray. So tons of stuff getting announced. Let's see. Motorgrader did a song for Jessica Biel's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Suffocate. It's such a good song. Totally agree. I need to win Powerball to see all of these concerts this year, says Louise. I'm working as hard as I can to get tickets to hook up people with a backstage pass and also here in the War Room when I can get them. So don't rely on me to get you tickets to your favorite show, but you never know when I'm going to have tickets to give away. House of Blues shows, Nothing More next month. Also the Dropkicks, the Hives, Guar, Alter Bridge, Filter, and Tim Montana. David Lee Roth tickets went on sale last week. That's May 24th. Wolf Mother coming up in June. Paradise Rock Club has got 2 shows from the Circle Jerks coming up in April. City Winery in Boston has got the Nelson Brothers doing a solo acoustic tour. It's just the 2 brothers singing and both playing acoustic, and those tickets are on sale now. Nothing yet announced for the stage at Suffolk Downs yet, but we're expecting some more outdoor shows to get announced for the summer of 2026 there. And new music, the new releases are coming. They're slow to get released this time of year, but they are coming. The Funeral Portrait releasing live from Suffocate City coming up this Friday. Nothing in the mail call this week. Hey, will you 2 behave over there? Hold on, you need to see what's going on over there. They don't look guilty at all. It's not enough for them to be comfortable laying on the couch. They have to be laying on 5 or 6 pillows on the couch for them to be as comfortable as they need to be. And this is, I can't believe they're not unconscious yet. They must have napped a lot more this afternoon than I thought because they're still wrestling. But yeah, that's what's happening with the pugs right now. So nothing in the mail call this week. Nothing new on the website, although as I told the Backstage Pass holders, I am working on some new tank top ideas, t-shirt ideas, and some new merch ideas for the summertime. But the Jack Racks are available with the Mistress Carrie keychains, the reflective beanies, the new stickers that we launched that are part of the sticker pack. Those are all there. And if you're wondering about the Backstage Pass, you get one on Patreon. You can do a live stream once a month. We just did it on Sunday. Podcast interview questions. I tell you who's coming up on the podcast for the next couple months so that you can send me questions if you got them. Travel blog updates. I am going to be traveling next month, so I will let you know about that. Early access to event tickets and information, contests and ticket giveaways. I will have more tickets for Backstage Pass holders. Everybody got hooked up with the show of their choice over the holidays. If you had a Backstage Pass, just go to Patreon and look up Mistress Carrie, or just go to mistresscarrie.com and click on the Patreon logo. And just a reminder of all the different places you can find me online, all the radio stations and all the radio stations apps that you can download. Bish wants to know, Carrie, are you doing giveaways for Five Finger Death Punch? Hey, will you stop? Come over here. You're going in timeout. I requested tickets for Five Finger Death Punch. Whether or not I get them, I'm not sure yet, but I did ask for them. Woosocks opening day, March 27th. We're already talking baseball, man. I'm so all about it. I was talking about it on the air today, actually, that like, do you notice that the afternoons are getting longer, that it's taking longer to get dark? Like that time in like mid-December where it's dark so early is brutal. The days are longer now. Like the days are getting longer and it's amazing. Jessica says, they're so stinking cute. Eric says, gotta go, guys. My cluster headache is at its worst now and it feels like I am going to puke up my lunch. Oh, I am so sorry, dude. That sucks. Let's see. When are the banana hammocks coming? Bish wants to know. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't want to make your headache worse. So go lay down, take some meds, lay in a dark room, snuggle the dogs if you got them, and just chill. So can you behave? Can you behave, fresh dog? So that's where you can find me. Oh, and reminder about the Mistress Carrie Veterans Rock Group that we are almost at 5,000 members. I did not check today, but I will after the show to see if we hit the 5,000 mark. We've been really close. So I'm hoping that if we didn't hit it already, we're really close to hitting it. So it's just a place to centralize all of the veterans work, whether it's veterans looking for resources or organizations supplying those resources, whether you're a veteran or you're married to a veteran, or you have a loved one that's a veteran. If you have a veteran-owned business you're trying to promote, or you're a veteran looking for work, or if you're looking to hire veterans at your company, just go to Mistress Carrie Veterans Rock. It is a public group on Facebook. Share the group with the veterans in your life so that they know that it's there. And it's just a great way to share information. Donna says, go Pats. Yeah, obviously. Pats are playing at 3:00 on Sunday against the Texans. And ESPN did 10,000 computer simulations to figure out and predict who is going to be in the Super Bowl. And according to the ESPN, which obviously at any time we could lose for any stupid reasons. According to ESPN, they said the Pats and Rams are going to be in the Super Bowl, according to those 10,000 computer like simulations that they did. So we'll see what happens. So go Pats. So there you go, guys. The podcast episode that goes live at midnight tonight, episode 293 with Barry Kirch from Shinedown. And that's it for this week. So there you go. The dogs are finally starting. Hold on, let me show you. They're finally starting to mellow out over there. They're going to be unconscious in about 5 minutes, just as the show is over. So Rachel says, my Cowboys aren't in it, so I'm cheering for the Bears. Well, I would hope you'd give a little love to the Pats, Rachel. We could use all the help we could get. All right, guys, I will see you guys back here next Tuesday. The podcast episode goes live tonight at midnight. And of course, you can start listening to me tomorrow morning on Laser at 6 a.m. and then on 98 Rock and then on the Pike and then on the Bone. Just go to mistresscarrie.com. It's all up there. Girls, you ready to say goodnight? Good night, everybody. See you next week.